Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Music for the September 2024 concert of the Fresno Philharmonic, which is a beginning of a very special season. And we have Stephen Wilson with us, and we have Rei Hotoda, and we'll be chatting with them in just a moment. But right now, I just want to welcome you, and I want to thank the sponsors of the Fresno Philharmonic. Stephen, would you like to say anything about?
Yes, well, we're thrilled. This weekend's concert is sponsored by the William T. Coyle and Wanda G. Coyle Charitable Trust. And then also another acknowledgement that you will be seeing on all Fresno Philharmonic events this season is that the Fresno Philharmonic is also funded this season in part by Measure P, expanded access to arts and culture grant program. This is a new City of Fresno based arts funding program. It's I think as if you've been following the news, it was a tax measure that was voted in the city of Fresno back in 2017. It's taken many years going through litigation and a lot of other things to get to the point of rolling out the arts funding component of Measure P, but this is the first season that we are a Measure P funded organization. The city granted out $9.5 million to lots of Fresno organizations presenting arts in the city of Fresno for this coming year. So we're excited about that and very appreciative.
And I'm so happy that you're getting that funding. It's going to a really wonderful cause. So this is the international edition of Inside the Music, because I'm going to take you on a little tour of where I am for just a brief moment. And one thing that you will notice is that outside it is not daytime. So that's your first clue, okay? And I'm going to show you a lobby that you probably have never seen before. And so can anyone guess where I might be? I'm coming to you from none other than, let me pull up the slide. None other than, there's a clue.
Ireland.
Clue, where could I be? Someone guessed, but I couldn't hear what it was. Guesses?
The multiple shades of green is
going, or emerald, Stephen.
Yeah.
Emerald. So I'm coming to you from Limerick, Ireland, and I am in the University of Limerick Irish World Academy of Music. You can see the mural that I just showed you right here, and I'm here for two reasons. I'm the external examiner for the Master's and PhD program in composition. I've been doing that while I was here. And I also recorded, when I was a Fulbright scholar here, I recorded an album with a group of jazz musicians, and it's called Confluence to Ireland Sessions, and it is out now. And so I'm doing a tour promoting the release of the album. I'll just say one thing about it. You can write that down if you want to check it out. It's on all of the streaming services and available on Amazon and everywhere that you get your music. But I got some good news just the other day that it's just released, and it is number 7 in North America on what is it called? Jazz Week's it's Jazz Week station chart, number 7 most added album in North America.
all right.
So that's pretty cool, and it's already in the top 30 of college and public radio station broadcasts of albums. So I'm very pleased with that. So I hope you can check that out. And this is a very special year for the Fresno Philharmonic. It is the 70th anniversary. So the Fresno Philharmonic was incorporated in, or some iteration of it that then became what it is now, in 1954. And Hagiazian, I think, is how that name is pronounced. Can someone correct me if there's a different pronunciation or better pronunciation of that name? Hagiazian, I think is what I heard. Stephen told me is how it's pronounced. He was the first director of the Fresno Philharmonic. So just one word on that, and then we'll see if Stephen has something to add. But in this little history of him, there is a connection between him and me and Anna Hamry, who directs the master chorale that performs with the Fresno Philharmonic. So pay attention. So he was born in 1925 in Detroit. He's of Armenian descent, right? Studied violin at 8. And then he started to conduct for the different Detroit opera groups in the 45, 49-ish. And then in 1954, he came to Fresno and served as the first director of the Fresno Philharmonic Orchestra. Notice that in 1956, so in his second year of conducting and the second year of the master chorale, he invited the master chorale to perform at the Fresno Philharmonic, and they performed Bruckner's Te Deum, which is a great piece if you want to look it up, with the Fresno Phil. So that was interesting to me because one of the really glorious things is this connection the Fresno Philharmonic has with many community entities, and one of them is the master chorale. And so I was happy to see that wonderful synergy has gone back for a really long time. And he finally left in 1959 to become the assistant conductor of the Cincinnati Orchestra. And then I misspelled that, but Pittsburgh is where he went after that.
No.
Stephen, did you have something to add?
Yeah, well, the Fresno Philharmonic, we were incorporated under that name in 1954. There was orchestral activity in Fresno for several years prior to that under different names. Like I think there was a Fresno Symphony and other groups, but we trace our lineage back to the incorporation.
He was the first conductor of the Fresno Philharmonic.
Fresno Philharmonic,
and I'm not sure why they started talking about
the Armenian community was very important to the founding of the organization, not just appointing Hagiazian as the first music director, but also that many figures in the Armenian community were instrumental in founding the organization, consistently have been a presence on the board of the Philharmonic. And so in our, as we'll be talking about later, in our first concert in the 70th anniversary season, we're paying tribute to that deep connection with Fresno's Armenian community in the program.
I think it came up that way.
Well, thank you. And someone was asking why we were discussing him, and it's because it's the 70th anniversary of the Fresno Philharmonic, and this is the first conductor. So we want to send a big thank you, right, for what he did for the Fresno Philharmonic, and also highlight the contribution of the Armenian community to the founding of the orchestra and the maintenance of the organization. And I thought it was kind of funny. You actually can buy for $19.99 on eBay this historic photograph of him during his interview to be the assistant conductor of the Cincinnati Orchestra, if you go on eBay. Here's a little fact. You actually know someone from that family, probably. His son is Kurt Frenchie Yajian, and he's an American actor and singer. And guess what? He played one of the main characters in the 1973 film Jesus Christ Superstar. So his son ended up to be an actor, and he is still alive. He was born in 51, I think. And the connection to me is that he graduated from the North Carolina School of the Arts, and I had a very brief time doing some work with their international program decades and decades ago. So a little bit of a connection to that. So the season that Ray and Stephen prepared to celebrate this 70th anniversary season is really special, and they're calling it a symphonic collage. So Ray, would you like to chime in, Ray and Stephen, and talk about why?
Thank you, Ben. Hi, everyone.
This title?
We're just so excited to celebrate all of the different aspects of the Philharmonic. One is very important are the musicians of the orchestra, and we wanted to make sure that we highlighted them, but also to really look at all the different cultural or organizations and the people that make up Fresno was really important to us to celebrate that. So if you can jump to the next slide.
Yes, and so here's our first concert that we're going to talk about.
Yes, so we wanted to again highlight our Armenian roots, and we are featuring Sergei Babayan, who is an incredible pianist, the best interpreter of Rachmaninoff, and he is going to play the very difficult Piano Concerto Number 3, but gorgeous nonetheless. And then we feature Khachaturian, an Armenian composer, and we start with a Japanese work. And there's a through line throughout all of these programs that they connect in different programs throughout the season. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Yes, and then we have after that, we're featuring a member of the Fresno Philharmonic, aren't we?
Right. Our concertmaster of 15 years, Stephanie Sant'Ambrogio, would be playing a very rare violin concerto by Respighi. And it's called Autumn Poem, and she'll be featured as a soloist there. But other members of the orchestra throughout the program will be featured, especially in the Bartok Concerto for Orchestra.
That's going to be wonderful. And then we have a return, don't we?
Yes,
Karen.
Karen Slack is she is just a rising star right now. She's doing a residency with Lyric Opera in Chicago. And we had her sing Beethoven 9 with us and the Justice Symphony by Damien Jeter. She's coming back to sing a Mahler song cycle. And we're just so thrilled because this concert will be conducted by an Ecuadorian conductor, a guest conductor for the first time since my tenure. And I think you'll really enjoy Tito Munoz. And of course, we're featuring Inkiro Okoye, African-American composer, in Voices Shouting Out. So there's just so much to that program. And
it's
again,
so rich. And I love the graphic of this one. It really captures all of the different vibes that are going to be going on.
Right. And I think that's where we were going with this collage of different elements. You know, we explored the jazz last year. Now we're exploring different cultural elements.
I love it. And then we have a really special program, even more. I mean, I'm so looking forward to this because we have the beginning of a multi-year initiative of the Fresno Philharmonic called Cultural Crossroads.
Right. And the first one is called Kisetsu, which in Japanese means seasons. And we have commissioned a work by two California composers who are sisters, Hitomi and Erika Oba, to write a piece that was inspired by our very own Mas Masumoto, our local peach farmer and writer and activist. And we have had 3 orchestral readings for they're jazz musicians. And so we've had these readings for the composers to work with the orchestra. We just had the last reading yesterday with the full orchestra. And what we're doing is really, the commission is not a transactional commission. It's really this this blending of ideas. We're sharing ideas. Mas was there at the readings. So everyone is involved in this commission. And of course, we feature Barry Douglas, a very favorite of Fresno, playing Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto.
Yes, and I think isn't he doing something with keyboard concerts as well?
I think so, around the same time. So
I think around the same time. Yeah, he's a fan of Fresno, and we're a fan of his for sure. And then we finished the season with something I'm particularly looking forward to, a tabla concerto, and not just by anyone, but our friend Danuk, who's coming back.
Right, Danuk Wijaratney, our friend who we commissioned my first season here from Figure to Ground. So he wrote a tabla concerto for Sandeep Das. And for those of you who don't know Sandeep, he is a virtuoso on the tabla. These are Indian traditional hand drums. And Danuk wrote this piece for Sandeep, and it is just incredible. I urge you not to miss this concert. Not only that, he is just a force to be reckoned with on the tabla.
Well, when I tell people,
yeah, you will not believe how fast his hands are playing these small hand drum instruments, and so
No, when I
expressive.
tell people here at the academy, and they have a huge Indian music program, that Sandeep is coming to Fresno, they're like, "Wow, that'll be so great! It'll be so
Yes, he's
wonderful."
world renowned. He travels all over the world. He's played with Yo-Yo Ma's Silk Road project for many, many years. Has great stories about Yo-Yo Ma, by the way. So we'll have to, sit down and have a chat with him. He's such an
Oh, I would
engaging
love that if
person.
he would do Inside the Music. That would be great. And
Yes.
just an aside, a connection with where I am now in Limerick. One of my colleagues here, the guest artist or artist in residence here, is none other than Rhiannon Giddens, who won the Pulitzer Prize for composition a year ago, I think it was, and also multiple Grammys. And she now is the leader of the Silk Road Ensemble. And
Oh,
so there's
fabulous.
and this university actually is doing a project with the Silk Road Ensemble celebrating the contributions of Irish workers on the railroad. So anyway, it's interesting how there are all of these interconnections and everything going on.
Yes,
Well, I'm
and
just
then
so looking
yes.
forward to that season, Ray. It's just brilliant programming. I'm just so excited by it.
Thank you.
And I thought what we would do and spend our time on, and my bias as a composer is when there's a work I don't know and I haven't heard, I really want to dig into it and see what it's about, particularly if it's influenced by a culture that I'm, really don't know very much about. And I think that we're Ray and Stephen, by programming this particular work, are sort of foreshadowing the Cultural Crossroads concert with Moss and Hitomi and Erika Oba in February, because we're getting a piece written by a Japanese composer that's based on some Japanese musical traditions, and also some folk songs. And I will make a confession: I really don't know much about that. And so I have a little history here, and we're going to listen to some of the traditional music that it's based on, and then we'll listen to the piece, and I'll rely on anyone in the audience who can add to the discussion. And Ray will know more than I do about this, so we're hoping that Ray chimes in some too, and or corrects me if I get anything wrong. But he is and Ray, I will ask, is it Yuzo Toyama? Is that the correct pronunciation?
That's right. Perfect.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Yuzo Toyama. Okay. So Yuzo was a conductor and a composer born in Tokyo, 1931. And that can't be right.
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
no,
not sure what
yeah.
I think, he died last year,
Just last year. Yeah.
2013. So I don't know how the other got in. Yeah, he died just over a year ago, as I recall. So he studied in Japan, then he went to Vienna. And as a composer myself, I'm thinking, oh my God, Rostropovich premiered his cello concerto in Moscow. I just can't imagine what he felt like when that happened. That's just the pinnacle of the pinnacle. And he's conducted all the major orchestras in Japan and a champion of modern opera. This particular work from the 1960s has a medley of Japanese folk tunes, and he intended it as an encore piece. There are three kind of sections. That's what I got out of it. There's an opening that mimics the opening of Kabuki. How many of you know about Kabuki theater with the face paint and all of that? The opening of Kabuki theater has special wood blocks that open the performances. Basically, we're about to start. It's an announcement, and so that's the very, very beginning. We hear a medley on flute, and that medley came from a Japanese song that was sung by mule drivers in the middle of Japan when they would come to a fork in the road. So they're driving the mules, they come to a fork in the road, and they have to decide what fork to take. So it's coming from a something that is sung, but it's played on the flute. And then it closes with a song that traditionally ends a sporting event or a festival. It's something that's just very joyous. And I have a note here, notice the percussion. How many percussion are there? Well, most scores start with something like this. It's probably hard for you to read. So this is the orchestra, and we have traditional orchestra. We have double winds, it looks like mostly. And, you know, four horns, four horns. We have three trumpets. We have three trombones. We have a tuba. We have a timpani. And then after that, we get this list. And I have no idea what that is. But these are percussion instruments of some kind. You can see over here in parentheses. So my assumption is that these are traditional Japanese percussion instruments, and the Fresno Philharmonic, I would guess, is having to do some substitutions here. So I thought that would be kind of fun for Ray to talk about.
Yes. So again, thank you, Ben, for that introduction on this piece. It is very traditional Japanese music. And the reason why Toyama wrote this was that the NHK orchestra that he was conducting was doing a world tour. And so to represent Japan, he wrote this piece, which features these traditional Japanese instruments, often played in kabuki or no theater. Which is a 1,000-year-old tradition in Japan. And so the first one, of course, everyone knows timpani is pretty much in most Western classical music. So he offers the timpani, but you'll see the timpanist in this piece playing other instruments like the claves. The hyoshigi is very much this wooden sound. And I think we're all familiar with what the claves sound like, and Ben will play that later for you. The kin is a small Japanese steel bowl, and you will hear it resonating throughout the hall. Then we have the uchiwa daiko, which is very much like you think of taiko music in Japan. These are very small hand drums, the shime daiko as well. Then we have the grand casa, which is the bass drum, and the bongo, and the sistro down there is really these bells. They sound like sleigh bells, and unfortunately we didn't get an actual sistro, so we're kind of improvising right now to figure out which bell sounds we want. But that's really the fun part of it, you know, when we're exploring different cultures, is to adapt if we need to, but then to really explore these different sounds. And the chanchiki is also a kind of a small drum. So it's it's in the harp as well is involved. So it's a battery of instruments. We have 4 percussionists playing them, and we've had so much fun just experimenting on different sounds. In fact, Corey, our principal percussionist, brought in like 3 different bowls, including a singing bowl. And he's like, "Do you like these pitches? You know, do they fit?" And so I got to hear some other alternatives, since we couldn't really attain the actual Japanese instruments.
How fun. And look at this. This is a page of the score. And right here is where the horns are. Okay. So everyone that knows music, look at that notation. And then here's where I can't even read, tuba and trombone, bass trombone, I guess, or trombone is here, right? So
Right.
these are brass, right? But that does not look like brass music at all. So Ray, let the mystery out. Let the audience know what that is and why that's there.
Yes. So Toyama actually gave the claves to the brass musicians. And in fact, for our performance, because Shigoyen is a smaller hall, we are only inviting the trombones and tuba to play the claves with the percussion. But it's really the sonic event that's happening, and he didn't want to just give it to the percussion, because then you hear it across the orchestra, across the stage, when you hear these trombone players playing it. And I think that's kind of novel. It's kind of interesting, you know, to involve the musicians in that way. So they've really risen to the challenge. They're enjoying it.
I bet they're having a good time. I bet they're having fun with that. So as I mentioned, it opens with a pair of wooden blocks that are used to open kabuki theater. And so I thought it might be fun to hear the opening of a kabuki theater. So let me go back to this video and let me play it and take a listen to how this begins. And then we start the kabuki theater. So that sound is mimicked at the very beginning of the piece that you're going to hear. So let's listen to the very beginning of the piece.
No one seems to know this, but Amazon.
Okay, we'll skip the ad. So I think you can hear the relationship going on between the beginning of kabuki and the beginning of the piece that we're going to hear. So the next section begins, that's the one that is the Fork of the Road song that the mule drivers would sing when they came to a fork in the road. So let's take a listen to what that sounds like in the traditional music. So this is from an album about folk songs from Japan. So it starts off with some instrumentals, but then it breaks into singing. So one thing to pay attention to while you're hearing that wooden flute, which sounds like a shakuhachi to me, but it might be a different variety, are all of the different little, when you hit a note, you're approaching the note by either a gliss, it sounds like to me, either up or down into the note, like hey, 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 instead of just da, hey, da, right? Try to do that. Go hey, 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 hey. You're gliding into the note. And then when you hit the note, instead of just ah, hitting the note and it being stable, oftentimes there's a little alteration. It could be like this, like hi, a little vibration, or a little hi, a little up and down to another note.
Right.
So listen
and
to
Ben,
that again.
that's and
Mhm.
Ben, that's part of the text, right? The Japanese language that dictates those bends.
Oh, really? Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, so in the folk songs, they're it's really kind of a lament when they're at the fork of the road. They've traveled so far and now they have to figure out where to go next. And so it's this yearning of I just want to get there, and they're traveling in harsh conditions, and so it's this way to express that through music, but the flute takes over what the voice would initially do through the language.
So the inflections are an imitation of what would happen if someone were speaking that. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
That's really fascinating to me. So in other words, you in a way are hearing the text when you're hearing the melody line if you know the language.
Right.
Wow, I just love that. So we'll go on so you can hear the singing. And the composer does, when you listen to the modern flute doing that, he writes those in, it sounds like to me. So we'll go ahead just a little bit. So for me, I just love hearing inflections like that, because that's not what I normally hear, and I'm just so intrigued by that. I just love it. So I'm going to turn the sound off of this, but it looks like it's going to make me at least hear a couple more seconds of this commercial before it lets me go on. Okay. So we're going to hear the flute come in just a minute. Yeah, I think that's just beautiful. I love that contrast coming down like that into that tune. And then it ends with the festival song. And here is the one of those festival songs. So Ray, this might be sacrilege, but I hear that that's grooving like crazy. I think
Yes. It's not
I just
sacrilege.
love the beginning groove. I mean, this person, it sounds like jazz, right?
Yeah.
It's just so cool. I love it.
And Toyama's version is a little bit different. Oh, you gonna share it? Okay.
Yeah, where should I play? The last what? The very last, or in the climax area, or
yeah, very last.
Right in here? Okay, so maybe here. Well, I think that's grooving, Ray.
It's a great way to open our season.
It's a great groove, and it just exudes like celebration to me. Like, let's just all get together and let's celebrate and let's have a good time. Or like I would put that up against Earth, Wind, and Fire Celebration for something that's really just so nice to listen to, and happy and good vibes, and all of that. Do you have anything to add about the piece? I just thought it would be fun to listen to the traditional things, and then to see how he used it in orchestra.
Well, and the one thing I wanted to add is that, he studied in Europe, and one of
Yes, Vienna.
his interests was Russian music, and was
Uh-huh.
influenced also by Bartok. And we think of Bartok, yeah, so he,
Oh,
he was our first ethnomusicologist, right? Gathering all these
yes.
folk songs. And so I think it's really interesting that Yuzo Toyama really brought in his culture in the music. So I just think it's a fun way to open our season, and especially with this commission about the Japanese American experience in the Valley in February. So yeah,
Coming up, and it also then, that also ties in with Bartok that's happening later in the season as well.
you caught me. Yes.
So that's great. Good for you. I love that tie-in. That's just so neat. Okay, great. And then we have Khachaturian. We're celebrating the contribution of the Armenian community here. And he was born in Georgia. And I always find this to be fun. Someone of his stature as a composer and everything was actually first trained as a biologist. I think that's just really neat. And as far as blending his folk tradition with Russian romanticism is part of what it sounds to me like he does. This was composed in '56, and the liner notes are very good, listing the different scenes. That this suite number 2 is for, so you can sort of follow the program of what it was written for. Ray, would you like to add anything about this work?
No, I think that it will play itself. I mean, you will
Yes, I think it
hear,
will, and it'll be so fun. It'll be great.
yes. I mean, you'll hear a little bit of a celebratory Armenian wedding music, I mean, it's just so much, again, bringing his culture into the music. Again, this was a ballet about the Roman oppression, and Spartacus being the slave, bursting out, and actually the first piece of this suite is the Spartacus and Phrygia, and that's very famous. So I think everyone will really enjoy the opening of this suite.
And then we have the Rachmaninoff, which is not an easy piece, Ray.
No, it's a piece for 8 hands, played by by one person. And again, Sergei Babayan being such a great interpreter of Rachmaninoff is we're just so thrilled to have him.
And I actually was surprised when I looked this up at the short time in which Rachmaninoff wrote this. He actually was getting ready for a big tour where he was doing everything himself and wearing many hats, and he really put off doing the piece, and then he wrote it really amazingly quickly, and he actually practiced it on the silent piano that he took with him on the ship. But it was a huge success and actually launched his career, and I didn't realize that was the piece that kind of did it in New York.
Well, and what's interesting is that Gustav Mahler also conducted this piece, and he said that the orchestra part is so difficult that he insisted on just rehearsing the orchestra first before working with Rachmaninoff. So there's that incredible tie-in to this piece.
Oh, that's really cool. And since we're, you all at least are in California, and I will be soon, I think it's interesting that he ended up in Beverly Hills finally. That's kind of fun. Well, that's the basic presentation, but it would be wonderful to take any questions that you might have, or any discussion, or if you have things to add about the piece, it would, or have knowledge that we don't have, it would be great to share that with everyone. Kay, did I see you had a hand up?
Yes, a long time ago, a would-be boyfriend gave me a recording of Rachmaninoff playing his second concerto.
Yes.
And it's on a 45, the old, like a CD only with a big hole. And I'm wondering what I could do with it so I could play, because I don't have anything to play it on now.
You can actually buy turntables still. And in Fresno, there's a shop near Fresno High, right across from Fresno High, and they actually sell old stereo equipment. So that's one way. Another way, there are some studios in Fresno that will transfer, albums basically to digital format if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much I will lose in the transfer to digital.
I can't answer that because I've never done it, but I'm familiar with Maximus Media because I've worked with them before, and I know that they actually do a lot of transferring, and you probably would get much better quality from a studio doing it from whatever. But I would be shocked if that recording isn't available somewhere digitally, that someone hasn't done that, or that it's not on one of these
Probably.
streaming services or something like that. I would be really shocked. You would search like Rachmaninoff plays, the name of the concerto.
Yeah, it's done the year of his death.
Yeah. And I think I've
45.
heard it before, and I would have heard it probably online. So my guess is that it exists.
Okay. I shall look it up.
Yeah. So someone who, you can search, if you search the right terms, it probably will come up on some streaming service, I would imagine. Yeah. Or else that's public domain, so it would probably come up just as someone posted it on a website, probably, I would imagine. Other questions, comments? But it's always fun, isn't it, to hear a composer either conduct or perform their own work? That's always really fun. I think there are recordings of Debussy playing his music and a lot of other composers, and it's just so fun I think it's fun to hear their interpretations of their own music.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Or
I have a
Bernstein
question.
conducting and playing his music. That's great. Yes.
I have a question. The Japanese composer, did he have family in the United States? Because certainly there was a lot of trans-Pacific cultural exchange going on. He was a young boy during World War II. I'm wondering if he had family in the United States.
I have no idea. It seemed from the little bit that I looked into his biography that it was more that he was, going to Europe and more European things than United States things. That's my understanding, but I really don't know, to tell you the truth. I didn't do a deep dive into his history. I wish I could answer that. You're making me really curious now. Like when a student asks me something I don't know, it makes me just want to know so bad. So guess what I'm going to do in a little while? Go look and find out.
Okay.
I know that his conducting career, he guest conducted all over, but I mean, from what I can tell, his main conducting career, he went back to Japan, and it was in Japan.
Okay.
He had a great gig. Well, Stephen, I think that's all that I have. I want to thank everyone who's tuning in live back in the States, and anyone that sees this on the YouTube channel. Please tell your friends about the concert. Please tell your friends about the exciting season that Ray and Stephen previewed. They really have gone all out this season to celebrate the 70th anniversary. And I think I would put this program up against any orchestra in the country. I think it's just a marvelous, marvelous program, and it's going to have something on every concert for every person. And there are a lot of very unique things going on that we all should be excited about. So thank you for supporting the Fresno Philharmonic.
Okay, and Ben, we want to thank you for again serving as host this season, but also especially for making time in your extraordinarily busy schedule in Ireland this week to do the first presentation. We really appreciate it, and I know it's getting late there in Limerick, so we'll let you go. Okay.
Well, I thank you so much, and everyone, and come to Limerick sometime. It's a wonderful place.
All right.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Okay, thank
everyone
you
on
all.
weekend. Okay.
Enjoy the concert.
Bye-bye.